Hey, what's up? This is Václav. You've probably noticed that I recently made a few videos about security cameras that were a bit different than the other videos I make. Usually I try to automate things, make something smart, but these videos, they were a bit different. They were more like a product reviews, as I was learning and experimenting with it. But today I will bring that all together and we will finally make some home assistant automations with them. So first, I will show you my ultimate camera setup. Which of the cameras that I tested I picked up to use around my house and why. Then, how I configured AI, person and car detection using Frigate. And with that, we will use this to automate things like intelligently turning on the lights, triggering recording, or sending alert when nobody is home and the alarm is set and something suspicious is detected around the house. And we will even save it to an offsite FTP server. But that's not all. Today, for the first time, I make a giveaway on my channel. I already mentioned that from all the cameras, I picked one as my personal favorite. The camera is Annke NC 400 with the Chroma night vision. And I will go more into a detail about why I chose this one later in the video, because I made a review, but I forgot a few things. I will make this right. And I have one brand new Annke NC 400 here in the box that I will send to one of you. More on how to apply and win later in the video. So get ready and let's get started. First, what's the deal with the AI person detection? Well, most cameras have a motion detection built in, so why I can't just use that, right? Well, I did cover that in detail in my previous video about the Reolink RLC 820A, and if you didn't see that, here is the link. But in a nutshell, if you do not have a clean protected area where any change in pixels means that there is someone in there, this won't work. In my case, I have a large tree taking a big part of the image that is constantly moving in the wind. Yes, the camera is normally allowed to mask areas that you don't want to detect, but the tree casts shadows pretty much across the entire image in different times of the day, and the shadows also move. But also, if I mask where the tree is, it will not detect a person walking in front of the tree. So after a lot of experimenting, I figured that if I want to have a useful person and car detection, I really need to use an object detection that can identify a person or car in my case. Next, for the camera selection. Why a good quality image is important for me. Well, if it needs to identify a person in the image, it has to actually see it, right? And because a big part of what I want to use it for happens at night, be it for turning the lights on or detecting suspicious people around the house, and they usually come at dark, it will need to work well at night. Well, many cameras have an infrared light. They're black and white, but other than that, they will do okay job for the object detection. But not in my case, since again, I have this large tree which is close to the camera. And in case you have something close to the camera and other things that are further and you shine light on it, well, you have this law of inverse squares and will turn the tree pretty much overexposed and white, and the other things behind it will be completely black. If you are a photographer, you know what I'm talking about. So I figured, at least for my front camera, infrared light is completely useless. Well, I figured I tested that a few times and really I ended up in turning the infrared light off. So then Annke sent me this NC 400. I made review a few weeks ago. If you didn't see it, again, here is the link. And I really like that. In fact, I bought another couple and I use it as my main camera since then. So to make it clear, I bought those cameras with my own money because of my own decision. Annke didn't pay me to say this. They did send me another complimentary NC400, but I'm going to give it away to one of you. By the way, since the review, I found that the integration with Home Assistant is actually easier than I showed you. In the video, I did configure it manually in YAML, but it actually has a great ONVIF support, and the integration is very simple. So let me fix that. The ONVIF integration is not enabled by default. I guess this is the reason why I didn't find it in the last video. So the first thing we need to do is to enable it. Open the camera from the web browser, log in, and then go to Network, Advanced Settings, and then in Integration Protocol, enable ONVIF, and add a username and password, and select the level. I choose Operator. Once we are there, you can also go to Network Basic Settings and set the dynamic domain name and enable it. It will make it easier to identify the device on your network. Then, to add it to Home Assistant, simply go to Integrations, select ONVIF, and it will find the camera, enter the username and the password, and we are done. Can't get easier than that. It will create a couple of entities, among them 2 for the video streams. One for the high-res stream we will use to be the interface for recording, and then the low-res substream we will use for the AI object detection. So let's get it done. First, let's install Frigate. Let's find a website and check the documentation. So here we go. This is Frigate. And I'm looking for the installation instructions. I have Home Assistant with the supervisor, so I'll need to add this link to the add-on store. You will find the link in the description. For the other installation types, the instructions are there as well. Then, back to the Home Assistant. Click on the ellipsis on the top right corner and choose Repositories. Paste the URL from the description and add it. Then, click on the Frigate NVR and install it. It will take quite some time, so I will fast forward. Once this is done, we can turn on the watchdog and show it in the sidebar. But we will not start it yet. We need to configure it first. The documentation says that this is not done in the configuration tab, but you have to create a frigate.yaml file. So let me go to the Visual Studio and walk you through that. In the root of your config directory, create a new file and call it frigate.yml. And let's start configuring it. We will start with MQTT. We will enter the host IP address with the address of your Home Assistant, the user with the MQTT username, and the password. Then let's configure the cameras. We will start with the front camera, so we'll call it front, and we need to configure the codec. We will have 2 inputs. So for the first one, we will configure the path with the URI of the RTSP stream of the Annke camera. You can find it in documentation or copy it from here. So this is the 102 substream. So this is the low resolution stream, and we will use it for detection. And then the second path, which is the high resolution path, we will use to record clips. Then we need to configure the width and the height of the image of the substream for the detection, and the FPS for detection as well. This is recommended to 5 frames per second. Then this is not required, but we will configure it to enable the clip recording when it starts. And then for the detection, we will need to say what to detect. So we would like to track persons and cars, and there is plenty of other objects available. Just check the documentation. And finally, we need to configure our detectors. If you have a coral detector, you will check the documentation, but in my case, I'm going to use the CPU. And with that, we are done, so we can go back to the add-on and start it. After a few seconds, we can check the log to see if there are any errors, but if you followed my instructions, it should be running fine. And indeed, everything is up and running. So we can open the panel and we should see the camera image. Remember, this is the low resolution substream, and here we will see the camera and the events. When I click on the image, I can show the options where I can turn on the bounding box, which will tell me if it identifies the object, so I can check whether it works correctly. So let's try that. Let me go outside and see if it identifies me. And here I'm entering the image, and in a few seconds I should see a rectangle around me, and here we go. There is a rectangle, 84% probability of a person. It took about 4 seconds to identify me. I think I can live with that. Next, let's add a mask so it doesn't detect cars and people that are on the street. So I'm going to hit the Add button, and then I'm going to be clicking on the image to make a selection. So I'm going to start with the rough selection, and then I can add additional points in the middle. It will create a configuration of the mask. So when I click on this copy button, it will copy it to the clipboard, and then I can open the frigate.yaml file and just paste it in there. Then we need to restart the Frigate add-on to load a new configuration, and we are done. To trigger the automations, we're gonna add a Frigate integration that's gonna automatically create a bunch of sensors. So I need to add this Frigate repository into HACS. So I'll head to the Frigate GitHub site. There is an installation instruction in case you want to do it manually, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this URL of this GitHub site, add this to my HACS, say it is a integration, add it, then install. And because it's integration, I need to restart Home Assistant. Now I can go back to the integrations and add the Frigate integration. It will ask me for the host address. I'm not sure if the default one will work, but I'm going to enter IP address of my Home Assistant. And here we go. If I go to the device, you can see that it creates a bunch of sensors for different object types, for the car, for the person. So let's test that. I'm going to open another instance of Home Assistant and put it on the right side. I'm going to open Frigate panel on the right and leave the device entities on the left, and watch the front person motion. Now it's clear, and as soon as I walk into the scene, it will switch into detected. It's a binary sensor, and I will use that to trigger the automation. So it works quite well actually. This time it looks like it detected me even earlier. So the detection works. That's great. Let's use it to automate things. At the end, this is the reason why I have Home Assistant. So I'm still on the Frigate integration page, and I can create automation directly from here. I'm going to just hit the plus and say create automation with this device when front person motion started detected motion. So I'm going to call it something, turn front light on detected motion. So here I already have the trigger configured. I can do some conditions. So I can do the sun before sunrise and after sunset, or I actually like to do it differently. I like to do the sun sensor state below horizon. So the condition is when the sun is below horizon, it means it's at night. And what I'd like to do is call service light turn on, and then I'm going to pick the light, and I'm gonna pick the outside light. And that's it. I'm going to save that. And then I'm going to create another automation to turn it off. What I actually can do is I can duplicate it, and I'm going to call it turn front light off detected motion. And here I'm going to say when the front motion stopped detecting motion. I can still leave the condition here, or I can remove it, doesn't matter. And here I'm going to change the service, the turn light off. And I'm going to save that, go back. So that was pretty easy. I created two automations. One is to turn light on detected motion at night, and the second one to turn it off when it stops detecting motion. Let's test that. So here we go, it's 21:20, the sunset was 1940, so it's 1.5 hours after the sunset. And my daughter is entering, opening the gate, and the light is coming up. Let's see it again. It was actually pretty quick. You could see as soon as she opens the gate and she puts her feet on the path, the light comes on pretty much immediately. So this is pretty good. I think we can work with that. So we have done our first automation triggered by Frigate. I have done a couple more, so let me show you what I have around. So first of all, I have 2 cameras in Frigate, one in the front, one in the back. Putting that aside, what else I'm doing with the front camera? I covered 2 more scenarios. Both of them are about sending a notification and saving the video to a secure location. Now, most of the security cameras do have a feature to send a notification on detected motion or to send the video file by email or save it to an FTP server. And I can still configure it in the camera, but I'd like to do better than that. First, I'd like to trigger this by this AI person detection. So I don't want to trigger it by movement of the branch, but only when there is really a person on my property. But I don't want us to trigger notification. I only want to send it when we are not home and someone else is around the house. And I don't want to do it based on a fixed time schedule. That wouldn't work for us. We can do better than that. So I'd like to only set it when the alarm is set and we are not in the area. And if that happens, I will send a notification to my mobile phone saying someone is in front of a house with a picture from this front camera and also with a link to the media library where Frigate saves the video clip from this event. Finally, after a short delay, I'm going to copy the video clip to an external FTP server. This is quite an advanced feature. We will use a Linux shell command for that. But don't worry, I will show you how to do that. It's just one line of configuration. And it's a nice example of the Home Assistant's flexibility. But before that, let me show you the media library where Frigate saves the clips. If you remember, we have configured the Frigate to save clips. And I can access them through here, through the events, where I have the list of events. And if I click on that, I could see the video in high quality that is going to show me what's going on. But additionally, I can go to the media browser, and here there is a folder Frigate where I have those clips where I can access them as well. Okay, that's cool. So we see those videos in the browser, but how do I automate this? How do I copy those files somewhere else? Watch me. If I log in to the Home Assistant server and I go to the Media Frigate Clips directory, here are the files. Each of the files has a name which has the name of the camera and then some unique ID. So I can copy it from there. But how do I know which of the files refers to what video? Watch me. Frigate uses MQTT for messaging. So when a motion is detected, Frigate will fire an MQTT event with a payload. Let's look at the documentation. The payload contains the name of the camera, the label with the type of the movement, in this case person, and the ID of the clip it's creating. So what I can do is I can create a template sensor that is triggered by this MQTT event, Frigate events. And what it's going to do is it's going to update the state of the sensor. And if you remember, the file name is composed from the name of the camera dash ID and MP4. So this is what I'm doing here. I'm going to take the camera name dash ID and MP4. So in other words, I have created a sensor that is going to contain the name of the last clip that has recorded. So in this case, it should be that, the Z830MK at the end. So let me check that. The sensor is called Frigate Clip, and this Frigate Clip contains as a state name of the camera and this ID. So we can check that, and it should be exactly the same. So now we know the file name. So what we can do is we can create an automation that will take this file and FTP it to an offsite location. And we are in Home Assistant. It runs on Linux, so it's rather simple. We can create a shell command to do that. And it's a single line of text. I'm calling a shell command CURL, and I'm uploading the file, and I'm taking this media frigate clips and state of this sensor, and I will FTP it to an offsite location, including username and password, so I have blurred that out. Now that we know how it's done, let me show you one more automation I have created. So the first one is when there is someone around the house and nobody is home, an alarm is set. I also have another one which is similar, and it's also triggered by the detected motion, but this one works from the midnight till 8 AM, so at night, when we are home. And in this case, some zones of the alarm are armed and others are unarmed. So we are upstairs and the ground floor is armed. And I'm again sending notification to my phone, and I'm sending this video over FTP. So this is what you can do with cameras and Frigate in Home Assistant. Now, the giveaway. How to enter the Annke NC 400 giveaway. It's rather easy. All you have to do is to subscribe to my channel and comment this video with the hash giveaway in the comment. And I will pick a random winner using the comment picker website on Monday, June 21st, end of the day, and I will announce it in the comment. So good luck if you signed up. But even if you're not going to win, the Amazon Prime Day is coming on June 21st and 22nd. So watch out for the Annke Amazon Prime Day promotion. If you are in the security camera shopping, now is the time to do it. Now, if you're watching this later and you have missed the Amazon Prime Day, you can use the link in the description of this video to get 25% off for all the Annke Night Chroma Power over Ethernet and wireless cameras from the Annke official website. Personally, I have no profit when you use that link, but Annke liked my videos and they did send this code to me for you. And I think it's a great deal. Before I wrap up, there is one more thing. One of the things you have to deal with these cameras is how to mount them to the wall. They have a plate with a hole in the middle for the cable, and the plate has 3 or 4 holes, so you can theoretically mount them directly on the wall. But this is not ideal. First, this will leave the connectors exposed to the elements, and this is not a good idea. I mean, the box includes some kind of protective sleeve, but it looks really bad, and I'm not sure how much waterproof this really is in long term. In fact, when I was testing it, I left the Annke NC 400 camera, the original one, without any protection overnight, and it was raining and quite heavily, and the water got into the Ethernet connector, and I was using the power over Ethernet, and the connector kind of exploded. So don't do the same mistake and mount it properly, please. And the second thing is, if you mount it vertically, it limits the angle you can tilt the camera to the sides. So it's better to mount it horizontally. So what I have done is I made a mount designed for the NC400 that will nicely hold the camera and cover all the cables and connectors inside, and it will mount on the wall. So if you have access to a 3D printer, you can get it on the ThinkWorks. The link is in the description. A lot of links in the description today. So that was it for today, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.